for the oil gas support services. Our team is composed of Sunday, Benjamin, Dugan, Brito, and myself. Next slide, please. Our agenda. We'll start with the project scope. We have the objective, the business needs, opportunities, major milestones, major deliverables. WBS, that's the work breakdown structure, communication plan, risk breakdown structure. We have the FMEA, risk response matrix, failure response matrix, budget, monitoring, evaluation, discussion, and conclusion. Next slide, please. Our paper discusses applying various project management principles and connecting them to actual projects of oil gas drilling companies in the Middle East region and the impact and the difference it could make on an organization. Each project is unique depending on the client's requirements regarding size, time, cost, and resources used in the oil gas industry. Time is of the essence, and project managers play a significant role in managing, delivering every project. Being aware of such crucial elements as these form part of almost all construction projects. With our various backgrounds and work experiences combined with the knowledge gained in project management, we will approach a project with the necessary critical thinking from a technical and business perspective, and further broaden our horizons as we investigate the oil and gas industry. Next slide, please. Project scope. Our organization is an international construction company based in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, with operations in the Middle East region and Africa, among others, and a significant player in the oil gas industry. B2RDS has three divisions: the Construction Manufacturing Division, Facilities Management, and Rental Division. And the operations of these three divisions create a synergy. B2RDS provides support services and projects for global clients such as Schlumberger, Halliburton, Baker Hughes, Saudi Aramco, Ma'aden, Samsung, Sinopec, Techfen, and Saipem. B2RDS Rental Division has received a request for quotation from ABC Company to design, build, install, and lease a 150-man rig camp and rig camp rental to be delivered and installed in Kuwait. The currency will be in USD. This project will primarily involve the fabrication and structural modification of 38 modular units from shipping containers with 10-foot standard dimensions, following company specifications, ISO standards, and Saudi Aramco standards, and create a camp that could support and accommodate up to 150 employees conducting oil gas exploration, drilling, and operations in Kuwait oil gas field. These units will form part of the assets of the B2RDS rental division and will be leased out to ABC Company for a minimum guaranteed rental period of 12 months. Such units have life expectancy of 120 months with a return of investment of 20 months lease. These modular building units will be delivered and installed within 60 working days in Kuwait from contract signing. This 60-day period will be the critical phase to monitor and manage by a project manager to ensure the successful commencement of the lease. Transportation will be an optional item if client ABC Company requests. We can arrange it through a third-party logistics provider for separate lump sum payment. Civil works, including perimeter fence, to be done by the client, including all crane rigger and accessories for loading the modular units in Kuwait. All duties, taxes, insurances, and border charges on both sides of the borders, Kuwait and KSA, are to be shouldered by the client. The client will handle all related visa assistance for our team, for the project installation inspection teams, and the technicians and the maintenance during the lease period. The client will provide site permits, passes, and work permits of any type. Any changes and delay incurred within the client's responsibility, including related cost impact, will be invoiced to ABC Company, and any delays delayed will be added to 60-day completion time. Next slide, please. This project aims to deliver and install a fully working and functional modular camp within 60 working days from contract signing to support and accommodate the 150 employees of the ABC company who will conduct an oil gas exploration, drilling and operations in Kuwait oil, gas, and field. Our project manager assigned to this project has to monitor, supervise, and manage all teams from the production side up to installation to ensure that our client will be able to operate on time to meet its contractual obligations. Both companies signed the design, build, install lease contract last May 31. Thus, the fabrication and modification already started on June 1 and will finish the camp installation and be fully operational on or before August 9, based on a 6-day work week and KSA. The project manager, our project manager, is to ensure that on August 10, the lease will start to avoid penalty clauses and damages. Now, allow me to give you to my colleague Benjamin. Thank you.
I would talk about the business needs and opportunities. The GDP in Kuwait is expected to grow by 5.2% in 2022, with an estimated 2.7% growth in 2023. It's also expected a moderated inflation rate at 5% in 2022 and 2023. It will continue with a fixed corporate tax at a 5%, a 15% rate, and we continue with incentives that it constitutes of 10 years tax exemption for all the projects made in Kuwait. In addition, the financial analysts expect Kuwait's economy to strengthen in the short term due to the significant increment in the oil prices generated by the economic sanctions against Russia due to its invasion of Ukraine. This economic condition have contributed to overcoming the significant economic impact of 2022 long summer, with temperatures reaching 50 centigrade degrees on the shadow at the presence of dust storms. In conclusion, the economic condition in Kuwait and the impact of the Russian-Ukraine conflict represent an excellent growth opportunity for our business in this and in the development of future projects for 2022 and 2023. The next slide, please. I will talk about the major milestone. A milestone is a significant event in a project that occurs at a point in time for any project. The major milestone for our project will be the first, sign the contract. It has been done on May 61, 2022. In this milestone, we defined the regulatory and legal scope of the project. Our second major milestone will be the factory inspection and testing that will take place on July 28, 2022. Our company will inspect the condition of the rental units before installing them in the designated site. The third milestone, it will be the site testing that it will take place on August 9, 2022. At this stage, we will inspect the installation of the units on the designated site and the complement of all the technical engineering conditions specified in the contract. And the last milestone will be the lease start that will begin in August 10, 2022. In this date, the rented units will be delivered to our customers. Next slide, please. I will talk about the major deliverables. A deliverable are expected measurable outputs over the project life. The major deliverables of this project will be the project proposal. That is a document with all the technical and financial conditions related to this project submitted to the customer for its approval. The second is the contract. That is one of the most important deliverables because it establishes all the legal conditions we need to comply with in this project. This will lead to our first milestone, that is signing the contract. The next deliverable is the work order that will be released in the terms established in the contract, inform all concerned departments to proceed with the project. The next deliverable will be the expats and the work permit paperwork. This is done by the Human Resources and Government Relations team that is consistent in elaborate and prepare all the paperwork necessary to obtain the expense and work permitted with the local authority. The next deliverable will be the shop drawings that the engineering team will analyze the shop drawings to obtain the client's approval. and confirmation to begin manufacturing and fabricating the rental units. It will lead to our second milestone, that is factory inspection and testing. The next deliverable will be the third-party logistics truck arrangement, that it will be arranged to move the units to the installation seat. And the next deliverable will be the rental units. This is the principal delivery of the project. It will consist of 58 rental units delivered in 4 batches. This deliverable leads to our third milestone, that is the site testing. And the last deliverable will be the inspection. The inspection on site that will finish with the final deliverable that will lead to our fourth milestone, that is the lease start. My colleague Brito will continue.
Thank you, Benjamin. Here we have the work breakdown structure. It's the delivery-oriented breakdown of a project into smaller components. Here we have a reduction representation of the WBS. The 38 container box represent the 38 containers that will each have their structure, electro, and plumb division. Each container will have its works package, so it wouldn't be easy to see the tail of the 38 containers. The work packages for these containers are: for structure, you have skid, frame, base frame, walls, PCU channels, grill plaster, and a painted roof, door exterior, door interior, and windows. For electrical, we have copper, straight wires, interior lights, weatherproof metal halides, quick disconnected interior connectors, electrical operators, switches. For plumbing, you have pipings, hot and cold water supply pipings, drawing pipes, and another subdivision we have installation. So the packages with mobilization and demobilization, and transportation and civil works will be outsourced. So we'll not expect to be in our WBS the detail. Here we have the communication plan goals. Inform what the objectives of the communication plan. Informing stakeholders about the progress to provide them with a clear insights on certain decisions and changing the workflow, and maintain a dynamic feedback and improvement loop. The goals is establish the communication process for design, project, build, installation, and lease of a 150-man ring camp and ring camp rented to ABC company. The communication method will be email, hard copy, and meeting. Emails will be transparent for effective communication between the parties, and this will be ongoing and frequently. Meeting minutes. The meeting minute will present the points raised in the team's next step to be followed. And term of acceptance. At each deliverable phase, the corporate PMO will be responsible for collecting the approval and signature of the interest. Here we have the communication plan itself, but here we identify the stakeholders. Here we have a communication plan with specific information for each identified stakeholder, the frequency, the communication method, and who will provide the information. For example, we have the information milestone report, the target, general manager, project manager, field operation manager, and contractor coordination. The frequency will be weekly. The method of communication is email and hard copy provided by the PMO. So we have other kinds of information such as project status report and agenda, team status, issues reports, escalation reports, outsourcing performance, acceptance change request, and oversight gated decision. And the periodicity can vary for weekly, daily, and wherever necessary, bi-weekly, anytime he has a requirement. So the providers, we decide the PMO, the project manager, the team recorder, and ABC component transporter or PMO will be responsible to provide information. And the key stakeholders that we identified are general manager, the ABC company representative, KC inspectors, HS managers, safety, and other ones. Here, we have the risk breakdown structure. For this project, our team has identified 5 risks, both external and internal. As shown in the RBS risk breakdown structure and WBS work breakdown structure, the external risks are better in transportation, cross-border delivery, while the internal risks are the availability of the qualified workforce, employees, health and safe, and shop drawing. Now Dougal will continue with risk.
Thank you, Britta. So it's my colleague Britta explained it, briefly explained it about the 5 risks, internal and external. We're gonna deep dive into the 5 risks for more details. So we, as a team, we identified 5 risks, and you can see the matrix, severity matrix using failure mode and effect analysis. So each risks we evaluated through the 3 dimensions: impact, detection, and probability. As a result of total rating, you can see we prioritized all the risks into the high to medium to low. So first risk is dry and hot weather. So according to the weather, the climatic characteristics of Kuwait represent a heavy impact on all our project's activities. As a result of its dry, hot, long summer with temperature reaching 50 degrees, these conditions can cause delays in the project, affecting the well-being and health of the personnel involved, malfunctions in the electrical and plumbing installations, and the construction structure. And that's why we identified the weather as a medium risk in terms of the priority. And the second risk is transportation risk. Custom regulations and the documentation, among others, could cause issues at the border of KSA and Kuwait that could directly impact the delivery and installation of our 150-man rig cap, leading to delays and damage. So transportation risk we identified it as a priority of the medium risk and external risk. And the next risk is a poor design. So we identify poor design as the most important technical risk that must be adequately addressed. Without an accurate and concrete review of the shop drawings, there might be an error and deviations in the original scope of construction drawings, resulting in a change of order. This technical risk is common in construction projects like ours. It could affect the project scope and requirements if not adequately planned for. So poor design, we identified this in terms of the priority. It's a high risk factor. The next risk is qualified workforce. So in Kuwait, expatriates have played a crucial role due to the shortage in the workforce and skills. In general, Kuwait is struggling to build up the skills from a young age, and 90,000 nationals changed their work because they could not meet the requirements of the labor market. Therefore, finding a qualified workforce is a complex risk associated with the labor shortage and the local immigration regulation that Kuwait's government is looking into the law to cut the expat population. And we have the same situation in KSA. That's why we identified the lack of qualified workforce as a low priority in terms of our risk factors. And the last risk is health and safety risk, internal risk. Hundreds of employees are involved in the production process of the 38 containers, including carpenter, plumbers, and electricians. There are several hazards to the health and safety of employees, from handling power tools for cutting, welding, and handling heavy objects. There is a risk of temporary disability, permanent disability, and death. Therefore, we identified health and safety risk as a low priority risk. Next slide, please. So you see the risk response matrix. Together as a team, we identified risk response matrix for 5 risks. So through the contingency plan and trigger, you can see the risk response matrix easily. And so with help of the actions, we developed mitigation, transfer, and avoid plan for each risk. So now I would like to discuss one by one. So we're gonna start from the weather. So our B2RDS rental division has decided to follow the recommendations for employers established in the safety criteria for recommended standards. So occupational exposure to heat and hot environments consisting of the following key prevention measures: assessing the risk, limiting the workers' exposure to heat, reducing metabolic heat load, enhancing heat tolerance, encouraging the hydration, and creating a heat alert program to prevent and treat heat stroke, heat exhaustion, and heat cramps. This is the mitigation plan for the weather. And the next is cross-border. For the cross-border, our project decided to transfer the risk by having a third-party logistics service provider handle the transportation for this cross-border delivery from KSA to Kuwait. We shift the risks to our 3 third-party logistic providers for long-range and cross-border deliveries, wherein we will have a primary provider and the second one is a backup. As to our contingency plan of the transportation risk, we will have a second third-party logistic on standby if our primary third-party logistic provider has customs issues and delay already reached 24 hours to be strictly monitored by our shipping team. And the next risk is technical risk per design. So we have adopted risk sharing as our risk response plan for this technical risk. As documented in the contract agreement, the architect and his firms are responsible for the superior design that would meet the client's specifications. Anything that falls short of the service standards will result in several business relationships, including litigation. The next one is the qualified workforce. So for the qualified workforce, we created a mitigate plan for this risk. And our project, retaining skilled employees is critical since both countries, KSA and Kuwait, are dealing with lack of skilled people and labor shortage. Therefore, our company needs to consider creating a retention plan associated with a bonus scheme for skilled employees with an agreement to accomplish the project goals fully. Having a strong development program could motivate employees to enhance their performance. And the last, health and safety risk, we identify to avoid this risk. In order to prevent this kind of risk, we recommend the use of personal protective equipment such as coverall, gloves, hard hat, steel toe shoes, safety glass, and face mask. To mitigate this risk, our health and safety team will provide first aid treatment in the production area and at the site. We also recommend that we secure necessary insurance in case of total disability or death to transfer the risk. Next slide, please. So next slide, we identify the failure response matrix based on the 3 dimensions evaluation. So first graph shows the relationship between probability and the impact. So in terms of the major risk, we identify transportation poor design, weather is a major risk, and it's defined as a red zone, identified into the red zone. And qualified workforce and health safety, and we identify this as a moderate risk in terms of probability and impact. And next graph, you can see that the relationship between detection and impact on the 5 risks. So poor design, weather, transportations are the major risks in terms of detection and impact, while qualified workforce, health and safety risks are the moderate risks. The last graph shows relationship between the probability and detection. So poor design is a major risk in terms of probability and detection, while the weather, transportation, qualified workforce, health and safety risks are identified as a moderate risk. So based on this graph, we identified transportation per design, whether are the major risks in terms of the failure response matrix. Now I would like to invite my other colleague, Sandy, to continue the next chapter, next part. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dugo. Having identified risk, then the question is, how are we going to spend 1,520,000? Now, our budgets, we have segmented it into key budgetary items that are of significance. Number one, we identify hard costs. What are hard costs? These are direct labor costs, equipment, and materials. Actually, this constituent was 2% at 948,000. We also have the soft costs. These are administrative expenses, the supervisors' wages and salaries. That constitutes about 32% at 524. So our site installation is just going to cost just about 4 or 5% of the total cost. Now, what are the constraints we envisage when we are designing this budget? Number one, top on the list, has to do with the fact that this money must be available. We are funding this project through self-funding. So we believe this money must be available for us to deliver within 60 days. Second on the list has to do with the timeline. That timeline is sacrosanct because our franchisor is actually looking up to us to deliver that project for them to go into their exploration activities. Then the last constraint has to do with availability of human and material resources, which is very important. In coming up with all this, what are the assumptions that we have used in designing this budget? Number one, all resources, both human and material, must be accessible. Number two, project team members, mostly the project manager, for instance, must support every members of the team through timely provision of resources so that tasks can be done. Also, because we are working with 60-day timeline, we expect that labor costs will not vary. Then we also expect that availability of all resources, both human and material, in right quality and quantity, is made available during the course of the project. We don't expect any drastic change. We are actually working with 5% inflation. We don't expect any drastic change in inflation. Then also, we expect functional equipment and supplies. We also expect that our franchisor will not change the project scope as the project proceed. Now, the next item on the agenda, next item, please. The next item on the agenda has to do with how do we measure and monitor all these activities. Now, in measuring and evaluation, there are four important factors that one must consider. Number one has to do with your baseline. Your baseline as well as key elements that you want to look at. The baseline plan is like your budget. Number two has to do with, you need to also decide, do I want to measure qualitative or quantitative data? In our own case, because the data, they are available on the field, we have efficient team on ground, we will be making use of quantitative metrics. The number three has to do with, in coming up with all this, we also need to also look at how do we ensure that what is going on the site is actually meeting up with the baseline. That is number three. Then if we now notice any variation in what is happening on site, with our baseline, with our budget that has been set, then of course we set up a corrective action. Setting up this corrective action will mean, as project manager, we take maybe from our budget reserve, for instance, which has been earmarked for any unforeseen circumstances within project scope. We take from it to address these challenges. Now, the 3 metrics that we have come up with to be able to monitor our project, they are safety performance index, cost performance index, and scheduling performance index. Very simple to calculate. For you to calculate your safety performance index, just take into cognizance number of lost time incidences to date against total man-hour expended. For cost performance index, you take into cognizance your budgeted cost of work performed to date over the actual cost of work performed to date. Then, of course, the last one, scheduling performance index, you take into cognizance budgeted cost of work performed against budgeted cost of work scheduled to date. So with these 3 important metrics as project manager, we will be able to track our progress within this 60 days time frame. Then the final wrap up. The next slide, please. What have we learned so far? B2DS company has been able to use project management knowledge to design, plan, and come up with a project management proposals and implementation plan to be able to help our clients. And in all these things, you will notice that all these key metrics, goal setting, 60 days, 38 units to be delivered. You will notice initiation of the plan, wherein we actually sign approval we sign agreement and approval with the client, and the project charter was initiated. Then also you notice planning. We plan for risk, we plan for resources. You also notice prioritization. Prioritization which helps us to discover critical parts that are necessary that we must also look at as project manager. You will notice task planning. We started from work breakdown structures. We also look at we start from work packages, we go into work breakdown structure and other elements. Look at monitoring and control, which is an important evaluation mechanism to ensure that projects, deliverables, and key milestones, they are actually on track to the end of the project. We also saw execution, and of course, the final phase has to do with completion. This completion is where we learn from our project, and we're able to recycle this knowledge into another project. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.